Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 951, November the 18th, 2019, Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, well, I don't have anything to sell you, so let's go ahead and cover some TowerGate news. Let's see. So yesterday, we led off yesterday's TowerGate talking about this story, the story about the ABC news anchor who had the story on Epstein, and her network spiked the story, and she's all pissed off because now it's a big story, and she missed out on it. So they're trying to find the person who, ABC is trying to find the person who had leaked the story or what have you. So now we find out today, this is in Gateway Pundit, that CBS has identified, because remember, this person who they know access to file when he worked at ABC now works for CBS. So CBS has fired that staffer who had access to the leaked hot mic video of the ABC host and her revelations about how ABC spiked her Epstein blockbuster story. And I guess what's amazing about this is that sure didn't take long, did it? To find that whistleblower. Isn't it funny how all of a sudden ABC, CBS, NBC, we know NBC spiked the Weinstein story for so long, and they're still spiking the Weinstein story. And here you have ABC, they're not at all. They have no problem whatsoever with it being known that they spiked the Epstein story. They're very publicly saying, hey, you know, I think that what they're saying is they didn't have enough corroborating evidence, but they had no problem running many other stories without that type of evidence. I mean, they certainly ran with the Kavanaugh story. I didn't hear ABC, NBC, or CBS out there defending other whistleblowers, such as Julian Assange, such as Edward Snowden, such as William Binney, and many others. Many, many, many whistleblowers. When do you ever hear, and when ABC, CBS, NBC, they have no problem outing any whistleblower. But all of a sudden they got a problem with outing Sharamella. They have a big problem outing this person who worked at ABC, went to CBS, and leaked this damaging information to Veritas, showing how they spiked the Epstein story, just like NBC spiked the Weinstein story. And how many other stories do you think they spike? How about the Spygate story? Think about that one for just a minute. They spend 2.5 years on a fraudulent hoax story, Trump-Russia, while at the same time completely ignoring and even bad-mouthing people who talk about the real crime, the Spygate scandal. And you watch and see, when the Spygate scandal is unrolled, watch and see how ABC, CBS, and NBC and all their friends cover that. These people are just like when Trump points these people out at his rallies and says how bad and how dishonest they are and how they're fake news. Man, oh man, thank God for President Trump. Because we always have known that the media is bad. But now they've been fully exposed. Fully exposed. I have no idea why in the world anyone would tune in to ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, or any of these networks. Why in the world would you tune in to watch that kind of crap, knowing good and well that time after time they miss the huge stories, they get stories wrong, they spike stories, they bury stories, they promote other stories that are fake. They get things wrong. They don't fact check. And they're total political partisan hacks. Journalism died in this country the day that Trump was elected. It was already on life support. The day that Trump was elected, that was the end of journalism in America. You have to go on YouTube and find some guy like me if you want anything close to news. What a sad, and I again, as I've said before, these people, some of these, David Ignatius and some of these guys who were involved in Spygate, the First Amendment doesn't give you the right to be part of a coup. You're not allowed to walk into a theater and yell fire, but you do have First Amendment rights. these reporters have First Amendment rights. They have the right to report on stories. They have the right to do various things that maybe some average people wouldn't have as part of their profession. But they do not have the right to participate in a coup d'etat. I certainly hope Mr. Durham can find some crimes to hang on these bastards. Well, it looks like one of the pencil neck geek, Adam Schiff, it looks like one of his staffers forgot to remove Sciaramella's name from the Bill Taylor transcript that his committee released. In essence, Schiff, his committee, just outed their own whistleblower. Do you think that that lawyer for Sciaramella is going to sue Schiff? The bug-eyed fool. Man, oh man, what an incompetent fool he is. So there you go. Now that Schiff's staff has allowed Sciaramella's name to be printed in that transcript that they released, that's good enough for me. Now everybody can go ahead and report on it. Now we can go ahead and call him in, because now he's been completely identified. We know who he is. It's time for him to come in and answer some questions. Jim Jordan probably has a few good ones. So does John Ratcliffe. And speaking of Jim Jordan, he's saying that they are going to call the whistleblower. Now, obviously, the bug-eyed fool is not going to allow that. He's going to override it. But again, just like calling Schiff himself to testify, it's important to call the whistleblower to testify, because you want to force the reaction of Schiff and the people on that had his committee, the Democrats. You want to force them to come up with a reason why they should not. Why they should not. I can't think of any good reasons. No whistleblower law protects him that way. He's only protected from being retaliated against in the workplace. He doesn't have some secret anonymity. No more than Edward Snowden did, or anyone else. He's not special. Oh, he's a lot less than special. Let's put it that way. We also have the Senate Intelligence Committee responding to Sciaramella's attorney, who said he's not going to come and answer questions, but you can do some written questions. And now we have the Senate Intel Committee, who are no friends of Trump, and they're certainly as deep state as they get. But the Senate Intel Committee is saying no to the written questions. They want Sciaramella to appear in person, and I assume that they mean behind closed doors. I don't think that they're talking about a public hearing, but maybe they are. Who knows? I doubt it. It's Richard Burr. So, you know, he would have to have something up his sleeve. I don't trust that dude as far as I can throw him. But it is interesting that he's telling the whistleblower, so-called whistleblower, fake whistleblower's lawyer, no, we're not going to do the written questions. We want to interview him in person. And again, I don't think he's talking about a public hearing. Well, we have Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson. They want the State Department to release documents on Hunter Biden, Burisma, and other firms tied to the Bidens. Well, that'll be a very long list. That would be a very long list, because, you know, right now you're just looking at this one case, but of course we know that there's much more there. We know there's China, we know there's Indonesia, we know that there's another country involved, another Eastern European country, and that's just a couple things. There's also this issue of Joe Biden's brother and some corrupt dealings. I bet if you were to go down the list of corruption companies or governments where the Bidens have been involved in corruption, I bet that list is probably as long as your arm. I mean, this was standard operating procedure. This was not a one-off. What happened in Ukraine was not a one-off. What happened in China was not a one-off. These are not one-off deals. This is business as usual. And you know, the truth of the matter is, and I'm sure most of you have considered this, that this is how things are done in Washington, D.C., and they have been for a very, very long time. If you are the offspring of a, national politician, you're probably getting all sorts of sweet deals that most other people wouldn't get. That's not necessarily criminal, but it's... Imagine if you were to look into every politician in Washington over the past, say, 20 years and look at if any of their family members received any special benefits as a result of their relationship with the famous national politician. I bet it's every damn politician in Washington. I mean, this is the swamp. This is the way business is done. And if you're going to out Biden, and they certainly should, and focus on, because he is running for president, needs to be vetted. These are things that were involved in Ukraine. There's other things going on. China, Ukraine, big issues going on. They're important things to discuss. They directly affect Biden, which would directly affect him if he were president, and that's why these things need to be looked at. But just in a general, statement, if you were to look into and I'm talking Republicans, Democrats, doesn't matter who, look into any politician that served in the Congress, or president or vice president, or a high-level cabinet member or something like that, go back 20 years, I bet you that more than half, you will find either their spouses, their brothers, their sisters, their kids, business partners, whatever. You will find all sorts of corrupt crap going on. Because that's how business is done in Washington, D.C. I mean, this is business as usual. This is why Biden's looking at this like, I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, Hunter didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. No, to these people, they didn't do anything wrong. Because this is what everybody does. I mean, it's like, what do you mean, me? I mean, yeah, so my kid got $1.5 billion from China after a visit there. Yeah, everybody gets those types of deals. I mean, Chelsea Clinton got, what, $800,000 to be a contributor to some news network, and I've never seen a single story that she's written or done. $800,000. It's just the way things are done in Washington, D.C. It's a horribly corrupt place. That's why Trump wants to drain that swamp. But, again, and we should investigate the Biden thing. That's relevant to what's happening right now and the fact that he's running for president. But again, it's not just Joe Biden. It's the culture of corruption in D.C. that you're really looking at here. So Grassley and Johnson want the State Department to release documents on Hunter Biden, Burisma, and other firms tied to the Bidens. Yeah, the State Department, home of the deep state. The deep State Department. Yeah, I'm sure that they'll come off those documents. Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch has been trying to get documents out of the State Department is tougher than trying to get documents out of the FBI or DOJ. It's worse than like pulling teeth. It's nearly impossible. So yeah, good luck with that one. They've sent subpoenas. It doesn't matter. The deep state doesn't care. They don't care. It's the culture. So Rand Paul did something very good yesterday. He blocked Chuck the Cuck Schumer's resolution protecting whistleblowers and anti-Trump coup plotters, which is really what this was designed to do. It's not really designed to protect whistleblowers. We already have whistleblower protection laws, and God knows people like Chuck the Cuck and all his friends don't give a damn about whistleblowers. Whistleblowers have their lives destroyed every day when they blow the whistle on government corruption. No. This little thing that Schumer put together was specifically to target Trump coup plotters. It was a bill. It might as well have been called the resolution to protect Trump coup plotters. And it's a shame that Rand Paul is the only one that would stand up and vote against it and kill it. But thank God he did. There's a lot of turncoats in the Senate, Republicans. There really are. There are not very many good Senate Republicans. That's a shame. We need much, much better Republicans in the Senate. Not even like Republicans, but that's what we're stuck with. So Joe DiGenova goes on Lou Dobbs last night, and he says that the IG report is being delayed due to John Durham's grand jury. Now, we've been hearing a lot about John Durham having grand juries, and I never really thought that was right. I thought, I don't know. I mean, I think we would hear something about that, or there would be something going on around that. He would just pop up and have these grand juries. But then, of course, we know what happened. Horowitz sent a letter to the two committees in Congress, the Oversight and Judicial, to let them know that his report was in its final stage of review and would be released sometime in a few weeks, which would put it somewhere around latter part of November. A lot of people are reporting now, hearing that it'll be before Thanksgiving. In fact, probably Thanksgiving weekend. Probably going to be released the day after Thanksgiving, or maybe a day before Thanksgiving, which means it's probably very damning. But Joe DiGenova is saying the reason why it has been delayed for the past several weeks is because of John Durham's grand jury. Now, again, I can believe that this is true, that there is a grand jury now, because what happened? Horowitz sends that letter to those two committees in the Senate. Says, okay, my report is now done. It's going through the final review and markup process. Expect it in a couple of weeks. And the very next day, boom, we find out. However that happened, I'm not sure if it was leaked or it was an official press conference, but we know multiple media organizations began reporting the day after Horowitz's letter that Durham's investigation was now a full-fledged criminal investigation. And of course, I said that day on that video, I said, Durham is probably, because then we find out at the same time that it's for some reason the DOJ, when they have an internal inspector general investigation going on, they will not run a parallel investigation, criminal investigation at the same time. They will wait till the IG is done and then they'll do the criminal investigation. So I believed at that time, and I still do, that what happened here is that Durham has probably finished his initial review of Spygate and the origins and all that kind of stuff months ago. He's probably been ready to move into a criminal investigation mode, but he's not been able to because of the Horowitz investigation going on. So he's had to wait for Huckleberry Horowitz to finish his report, because as soon as Huckleberry sent the letters the very next day, boom, Durham is now in a criminal investigation, and he's expanded his probe. He's asked for more resources, more lawyers, more investigators, more prosecutors, and all the whole 9 yards. So you don't move into that phase unless you think that you have criminal charges, unless you have something that would justify criminal charges. That's the only time that you would. That's the only reason that they would move into a criminal investigation from a review. And certainly, if you're moving into a criminal investigation, you're typically is going to be associated with a grand jury. So I do believe Joe DiGenova is right on this point at this time. I think probably that Durham has been sitting back for probably months, ready to go. He's probably already knew, had everything ready to go to the grand jury. He was ready to he and Barr, and specifically Barr, the Justice Department, ready to move into the criminal investigation as opposed to just a review, and probably ready to go move on things very quickly. So, yeah, I think that they were just waiting for Horowitz, and once Horowitz was done, boom, we find out that this is all happening. So, yes, I think it's very likely that Durham has been chomping at the bit, just waiting and waiting and waiting for Horowitz. And once Horowitz is done, he's ready. He's ready to go to the grand jury. He's ready to go for the criminal investigation. He's ready to start questioning people in the highest levels, the FBI, DOJ, CIA, foreign governments. He's ready to move on his targets. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. And I also believe, as I said before, that Attorney General Barr, I think he understood very well that he had to be careful how he moved through this investigation, because if he comes out, he and Durham come out before Horowitz, or even parallel to Horowitz, that it's going to be completely politicized by the media and by the Democrats. And so Horowitz was appointed by Obama. He's the highest ranking Inspector General. He is over all the other department Inspector Generals. He's got this great reputation. His wife is a real popular Democrat. He is a Democrat, donates to Democrats. And so I think that Barr needs the cover of Huckleberry Horowitz, because he knows that if Huckleberry comes out with his report and it's very damning against the FBI and the DOJ regarding the FISA abuse, regarding the dossier origins and things like that, it will be hard for the left-wing media and all of those to say, well, this is a partisan witch hunt, Trump getting revenge, all the things that they would turn on Barr and likely Durham. It's going to be hard to make that case against Horowitz. So Barr and Durham really need Horowitz's cover. They need for Horowitz to come out and say, yeah, there was horrible FISA abuse. They lied to the FISA court. They did this, they did this, they did this. And then, of course, this dossier wasn't verified. They knew this. They knew Christopher Steele was bad. They used his information in the FISA court even after they'd already fired him from the FBI. They were paying him. All this kind of stuff. Horowitz is going to have all this in his report. It's going to be very, very damning, and it's going to lay the foundation and the justification for what Barr and Durham will move into next, which is the criminal investigation, the indictments, and all those sorts of things. So I think for a lot of reasons, Barr and Durham needed Huckleberry Horowitz to finish his investigation, to get his report out there, and to let it sort of permeate throughout the country and let people digest exactly what happened and how bad it was. And once people understand it and accept it, and it will be hard for the media and the Democrats to spin it against Horowitz, because he's got this reputation of being a straight shooter. He is a Democrat, an Obama appointee. His wife is a Democrat. It's going to be really hard to say this is a partisan witch hunt. So I think this is what Barr and Durham have been waiting for. And now that Horowitz is done, his report, we expect will be out, we're hearing sometime around Thanksgiving. I think that that's really what Barr and Durham were waiting for, and I think they've probably moved into high gear. And I agree with Joe DiGenova. He probably already has the grand jury now in session, and he's absolutely going to indict people. Absolutely, 100%. And I look at it this way. If he indicts one person, if Durham indicts one person, he's probably going to have to indict dozens and dozens, because it was a criminal conspiracy. You can't indict Strzok and not indict McCabe and Page and Comey and Rybicki and the whole 9 yards. They were all working with him. If you indict any one of them people in a criminal conspiracy, you have to get everyone else too. So Durham is not, it's either one thing or another. Either he's not going to indict anybody, or he's going to indict dozens of people. It's going to go one way or the other. Well, we also learned that Kamala was a special guest of Joe Biden at a State Department banquet. We talked about this about 2 weeks ago. I read down the list of names of all the deep state Obama people who were there. It was the whole crew: Brennan, Clapper, Yates, Rice, the whole 9 yards. They were all there, and Kamala was invited as a guest of Joe Biden at that State Department banquet, and that banquet was held in October of 2016. October of 2016, and it was to honor the Prime Minister of Italy, Matteo Renzi. Yep. Boy, oh boy. A lot of smoke there. Well, the Rotten Reverend Clinton is campaigning, and she is participating in the debates. She's just doing it in a different way. We see her out there almost every day. Now, she's using this so-called book that she's pushing as an excuse. She wrote the book as an excuse to be out making media appearances so she could do political commentary and participate in the debates without actually having to be in the debates. She's out there as a candidate without actually being an official candidate. So yesterday, or day before yesterday, depending on when you're watching this video, day before yesterday, she's out there attacking Pocahontas, Chief Spreading Bull, Hiawatha. She's out there attacking Hiawatha on her Medicare for All. Out there attacking Hiawatha on her Medicare for All. Then, yesterday, she's hitting Bernie, Commie Bernie, on his wealth tax. So she's engaged in the debate against other people running. If she was just on the sidelines, she would do like every other senior former Democratic politician. She would sit on the sidelines. She would shut her mouth. She would wait for the nominee, and then she would back them. That's what former candidates for office do. They sit back, zip it, they watch, they observe, and if you go ask them who they're supporting, they'll never say who they're supporting. It's not how it works. They're waiting for the nominee, and then they'll support the nominee. But not the Rotten Reverend. She is out there participating in the debates without actually having to be in the debate. She's participating in the competition without actually having to be in the competition. She's waiting for the Draft Hillary campaign to gain enough traction and waiting for Quid Pro Quo Joe to finally make the fatal flaw, a mistake. And she's going to help him along with that to the best she can. As best she can, I should say. Yep, the Rotten Reverend, the demonic buzzard. She is circling over Quid Pro Quo Joe, waiting for him to make that fatal flaw. Then she's going to lower the boom on Warren. She's already set the stage for that. And she'll cheat Bernie again. She's got it all figured out, my friends. And of course we have Kamala Legs in the Air Harris. Her campaign is currently circling the drain. Circling the drain. She's going down, Mr. Tyler. And if you want to go down really quick and really hard, you introduce some new policy plan like she did, a really stupid one like the one she just introduced, which is to increase the school day by 3 hours. Oh, I'm sure that'll be really popular with the moms and dads across the country when the kids are either getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning or not getting home till 8. Yes, they'll love that idea. So will the kids. Hey, 7 hours a day of school's a great time. Let's make it 10. I don't think so. I don't think this is going to fly. I bet the teachers would love it. I bet the bus drivers would love it. I bet the custodians would love it. The cafeteria workers would love it. Everybody would love another 3-hour day in the educational system. And who's going to pay for it? Not Legs in the Air Harris. What a stupid idea. That campaign is circling the drain fast. But don't worry, because as I've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks, I said, look, Warren is not going to get it done. Neither is Commie Bernie, nor is Legs in the Air Harris. Certainly not Booty Boy. Certainly not the skateboarder. Certainly not Castro. None of these people. Quid Pro Quo Joe ain't going to make it. And I said, I've been saying this for week after week after week. I said there's two people who I believe could enter the race and be viable. They're going to lose, but they'll be viable. And that would be Bloomberg or the Rotten Reverend. Now, the Rotten Reverend is laying out her plan, her plot, to squeeze in and push Biden and Warren out. But now we hear today that Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg, is going to file the papers to run for president. Now, maybe some Democrats think this is the elixir. You know, oh yeah, that's what we need. A billionaire businessman Democrat to run against the billionaire businessman Republican. That's the solution. Yeah, the only problem is that Trump can think on his feet. He's very entertaining. And his ideas appeal to a lot of people because he has a very populist message. That's not true of Bloomberg. Bloomberg's the guy that wanted to ban straws. He banned large soft drinks in New York. So instead of people being able to go out and buy a super gulper, they had to go out and buy 8 12-ounce, people walking out with 8 12-ounce cups of Coke because they couldn't get the big 64-ounce Coke anymore. They had to go for 4, 5, 6, however many small ones. His policies are so freaking liberal and so stupid that, again, the only place a guy like Bloomberg could win is going to be in the most liberal. He's as liberal as anyone there now. Why would Bloomberg jump in the race? The problem that they have right now in the Democratic field is everyone is so far to the left they're not electable. The only person that's even close to being somewhere near the center is Quid Pro Quo Joe, and he's not going to make it. The obvious solution is that they need a strong candidate who is centrist or real centrist, a real classical liberal, maybe slightly populist on the Democrat side, for real, not a fake one. But that's not what Bloomberg is. He's like Gavin Newsom on the East Coast. They don't need another far left person. They need a moderate who's not senile, who knows actually where he is from time to time and doesn't sniff young girls' hair. That's what they need. They need a moderate, kind of populist-leaning centrist. They don't have that. The rotten Reverend Clinton thinks that she can copy and paste herself into that mode once the leftists have been proven to be unelectable. That's why the rotten Reverend Clinton's not in the race now. She knows if you go in there now and claim to be a centrist, you'll never win the nomination. You'll get laughed out of the joint because it's a bunch of lefties. She has to wait for the lefties to all be proven that the far left-wing agenda is a fantastic loser. And once they realize that everyone in the field is a far leftist, with the exception of, to some degree, Biden, but then they look at Biden and go, whoa, the only person whose politics are even remotely give us a possibility of winning, he's too senile. And that opens up the door for the rotten reverend to come in and fill that vacuum. And Bloomberg doesn't fill that vacuum. He's as far left as anybody in that field. But go ahead. Go ahead. Water's warm. Jump on in. Here's a statement. See if any of you can guess who made this statement. It is, quote, "We don't have a nation if we don't have borders. We don't have a nation if we don't have borders." Who said that? Well, Donald Trump obviously said it. Who else said it? We don't have a nation if we don't have borders. Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is now on the Trump train. Well, what do we have here? Jerry Springer was invited onto PMSNBC to talk about how Trump is to blame for the lack of civility in the country today. Jerry Springer. Now, many of you, I don't know how many of you know this, but of course I live in a northern suburb of Cincinnati. Jerry Springer is, of course, from Cincinnati. He was, in fact, at one time, back in the mid-'70s, he was America's youngest mayor. He was described as the boy mayor, Jerry Springer, mayor of Cincinnati. He was until he got caught up in a police sting over in northern Kentucky. A prostitution ring. Jerry Springer wrote a prostitute a personal check. Jerry Springer wrote a prostitute a personal check and got outed while he was the boy mayor of Cincinnati. Needless to say, he didn't remain mayor. Then he goes away. Then he reemerges a few years later to try to rebuild his reputation, and he shows up on one of our local news stations as a news anchor. And he was a news anchor there for several years until it became public knowledge here in the city, and I live in it's a very conservative city, that he was having an extramarital affair with his co-anchor. And of course, that kind of didn't go over very well in a conservative city like Cincinnati. And that's when you saw Jerry come up with his show. After writing a hooker a personal check and getting caught, and then getting caught having an extramarital affair with his co-anchor here in a local news station, only then did he have to go into the world of smut and crazy porn and all the other stuff. So they got him on MSNBC to talk about civility. Boy, how fitting is that? Thanks so much, you guys. Have a good day. Bye.